Look at this candle right here. Bitcoin has just done something that only happens 5% of the time. This is wild. We are about to uncover what this means for Bitcoin as the market is pumping, as there's euphoria in the air, as people are at the edge of their seats waiting for what Bitcoin does next. We are about to unveil it. Buckle up. Welcome. I'm Steve. Here we deliver honest, sponsorship-free TA with genuine value. Subscribe for a no BS approach that actually helps you. Subscribe. So here we are on the Bitcoin US dollar index. We are on the weekly chart. And what we have in front of us is essentially Bollinger Bands. It's the Bollinger Bands mixed with the awesome indicator. There's two kind of combined. We'll go through it step by step. But to pull up this exact indicator, what you can do is you go to your indicators and type in BBAWE, and it's the Bollinger Band mixed with the awesome indicator, and it's right here with the 9,000. So you're going to click on that, and we are on the weekly chart. And what we want to do first is go over here to the settings so you can see what the settings are that I'm using. They're right here, and the styles are right here. What we're going to do is remove this yellow line here for a second, and then we'll remove this one and this one. We'll break it down more simply put, and this one has some buys and some sells, which we'll get to in a moment. But first, let's have this clean chart on. This is essentially Bollinger Bands. What you see with Bollinger Bands is you have this top channel that generally acts as resistance. So as the Bollinger Bands are going through, no matter what price action is doing, these Bollinger Bands act as resistance, this top one. And then you have the bottom one that acts as support. So no matter what price action is doing, no matter how crazy it gets, this is our support band at the bottom. In the middle is actually this is essentially the middle, exact middle of the bottom Bollinger Band and the top Bollinger Band. We will call this our median line, this red line. So you have three technical lines. You have the top, the middle, and the bottom. And what's really cool about the Bollinger Bands is 95% of price action happens inside of the Bollinger Bands. 95%. The 5% outlier is when you get a little bit of a break through the top, what we just had, or a pretty heavy break through the bottom, which once in a while we'll have. 5% of price action happens outside of the Bollinger Band. 95% happens inside the Bollinger Band. When you have Bollinger Bands, the one thing you really want to look for are a squeeze. So you want to look for a period like this where the market is moving sideways, and you want to look for the mouth to open wide. This is when we had a break to the upside, and you see the mouth opening wide. And as soon as this mouth starts to close back right here, that's when the market stops getting bullish. And then we had another break of the mouth opening wide just before we had this huge break up here. The wider the mouth, the more bullish or more bearish the move. You know, case in point, if you look at some of these bearish moves, we had the mouth wide open for some of those as well. So the Bollinger Bands are super cool, but let's take a closer look at this price action, because this is where things get really interesting. And then we'll throw on our signals so you can see what that signal means, and then the buys and the sells. But look at price action. Breakthrough here. This is not up for debate. This is an actual breakthrough of the Bollinger Band. This candle has confirmed, so it's quite literally representing the 5% that we are referring to. Now, what typically happens with these breakthroughs? Well, sometimes we'll have a breakthrough like we did here, and then we'll just keep riding that up. We'll have some of that 5% will even out, and then we'll get back into it. This is when the market is just incredibly bullish, and it has zero respect for the Bollinger Bands. But again, if you take all of price action, 95% will happen inside the Bollinger Bands. Sometimes what happens when you have this breakthrough above or below is the market will move sideways and kind of catch its breath. Breakthrough down here, the market sort of moves sideways and catch its breath. Yes, it continued to move down a little bit, but it's kind of catching its breath and moving sideways. It's not one crazy candle after another after another. They're not closing outside of the Bollinger Bands. There's no candles way down here. So you can see that the market had this huge pivot down and then move sideways for a bit, and then another huge pivot down, and then it moves sideways for a bit. So you'll see that on the tops of markets and the bottoms of markets. If we want to go to the 5-day chart, we'll be able to see it a little more clearly. Case in point, you can see this candle here. It plows through the top of the Bollinger Bands. We kind of take a period of some candles to kind of catch our breath. And as we mentioned, most of the time, it will happen this way. And some of the time it will happen like it recently did, where we had a breakthrough and then we continued to rally, and another breakthrough, and then we moved sideways for a little bit, and then a continued breakthrough, and then it moved sideways for a little bit and a continued breakthrough. This is when the market is just on fire. Tilt your phone to the side and subscribe. So you want to have this in mind as you look at the Bollinger Bands. The Bollinger Bands are very fascinating. I do a much deeper dive and then how to trade with this in my courses. But for now, let's put these back. Let's put the fast EMA back. Let's put the breakdown and break up back, and then we'll discuss what this is. So this, again, is the Bollinger Bands combined with the awesome indicator. So what that one does is it looks at this yellow line. And when the yellow line crosses down through the median line, that tells the trader like, hey, you can enter a short position here or you can sell here. And the buys are when this yellow line or the fast line breaks back above our median line. If we go to what we say here, this is the fast line and our median line. As soon as our fast line breaks above here, it's a buy. So this indicator actually had a buy at 27,000, which is pretty good. That's very rare for an indicator to be that good. Now the problem is on the weekly time frame, or the 5-day in this case, there'll be a lot of false signals, but this is a very good one. It's not as good as our buy at 16,000, but it's pretty respectable. Again, if you're new to our channel, what we do is we focus on larger time frames. There's a whole bunch of people in crypto that will focus on smaller time frames. It's just not our cup of tea. We don't have interest in it. There's people way better at it than me because I have no interest. As I mentioned many times, it takes the same amount of time, energy, and effort to make $100 trade or $1 million trade. And if you're focused on these larger time frames, you have way less stress, you use the same amount of time, and then there's more clarity as to what's happening. There's just so many false signals on lower time frames. There's more significance on bigger time frames. I'm always looking at what's going to happen for the next 3 or 6 months. Some people are looking at what's going to happen today or tomorrow. That's just boring, in my opinion. And there's too much stress, and there's way too many caveats, and it could do this, but if this happens, and then it could do this if that happens. The next 3 or 6 months, that's when you can really make a ton of money by having more clarity of what the next 3 or 6 months looks like. So if you're new to our channel, hit the subscribe button. That's what we focus on. But back to today's candle. This candle is in the making right now. This candle just printed. We'll go back to the weekly chart here. What we're looking at is a situation of like, okay, Bitcoin can continue to rise, but are we going to have a candle close like way outside of here? No, it's not likely. We can continue to rise, case in point right here. What typically happens the majority of the time is we have a move sideways out of an extended period. So any break of the top or the bottom just means that it's incredibly powerful to the upside or incredibly powerful to the downside, representing quite literally a 5% piece of price action. Most of the time, Bitcoin is pretty even keel. And sometimes we have these incredibly bullish movements or incredibly bearish movements that are represented in that 95% area. So what I want you to look for is watch this yellow line, right? This yellow line is currently right up at top of our Bollinger Band. Okay, it's relatively rare for it to be up there. It tells you how hot it is, even coming out of the bear market. We didn't have this yellow line up near the top of the Bollinger Band. It wasn't until we entered phase 2 that we started getting our yellow line up near the top. And now, as we've shown significant signs that we've entered phase 3, the market is hot. Everybody is paying attention. But I don't want you to get too excited on the way up. Remain level-headed, just like I don't want you to get too depressed on the way down. We're in phase 3, according to most of the charts we study, especially on the weekly and the 2-week. Phase 3 generally represents a time where the market is very hot and flirts heavily with the all-time high. Every single time we've had phase 3, we'll pull it up here so you can get a visual representation. Phase 3, 2013, didn't take long for us to get to a new all-time high. Phase 3, 2017, didn't take us long once we broke into phase 3 to get an all-time high. Phase 3, 2019, didn't take us long into phase 3 before we got a new all-time high. This is phase 3, 2024. expect more of the same. So we're going to flirt either really hard with the all-time high, or we're going to make an all-time high. And as we talked in the previous video, this would be the first new all-time high before the halving. Although, according to the market structure, it's the same 1,000 days to recover to get into phase 3. So we're in this situation where I want you to remain level-headed. In phase 3, it often presents a nice little buying opportunity. If you somehow are not in the market, I put it this way. If you want to be in crypto for the next 5 or 6 years and you're okay with a 50% correction, you can stomach it, you should buy Bitcoin at whatever point you watch this video. Only if you can stomach it. That's not financial advice, but I'm just telling you something that you probably wished you would have known earlier. However, phase 3 usually gives some sort of correction. If the market were to correct 15 to 20%, that would be a good time to start dollar cost averaging until we stop having that correction. You should literally be able to buy until we stop, and then that'll give you a nice little opportunity to make some gains. But again, you should have the mindset that I will be in Bitcoin, in crypto in 2028, right? When we're probably going to reach the next market cycle top somewhere around 2028. So you want to be in for that period of time. And if you are, you're going to be just fine. I'll leave you on that note. Hit the subscribe button, put a like on this video. I'll see you right back here in the next video. This bull run is our road to 500,000 subscribers, but I need your help. Today, tell one person about our YouTube channel, how we spit facts, go against the herd, take no paid sponsorships of any kind. Road to 500,000, let's go.